listening to the Pump Take Basketball Show with Marco Goldblatt and Kale Meyer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pump Take Basketball podcast segment, whatever you want to call it. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm here with my best friend, Kale Meyer, and we're here to talk about, I know we always say this, we're always talking about important topics in the NBA that are currently happening. So we're going to continue to do that. And what is more important to talk about than
the playoffs?
So we're just before we came on to talk today, we each kind of wrote down our predictions. We're just going to go through each and discuss and debate and have a good, jolly old time. So, Kale.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with our picks for the Eastern Conference. We're just gonna go like one versus 8, 2 versus 7, that sort of format. So for our first matchup, we have the 76ers versus the Wizards. Now, the Wizards put up a little bit of a dud of a game in their first play-in game against Boston.
Big dud.
But they looked very, very good against the Pacers. And unfortunately for them, I think that this kind of just gives them the privilege of getting stomped by the 76ers in the first round.
Yeah.
I think that my pick for this game is honestly going to be the 76ers in 5 games to win this series. They just look incredible this year. Joel Embiid is having an MVP season, and Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, to their credit, they've really turned the Wizards season around. They've looked incredible in this, especially in the second half. And I think that combo is going to be good enough to win one game, but I think the 76ers are the best team in the Eastern Conference this year, and they're going to take this 1-5.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much most of what you said there. And once again, Embiid, man, like if he didn't have those injuries, which, Embiid's never played a full season. And if he didn't have those injuries, he's a clear MVP front runner candidate at least. But yeah, agree with you. I'm also thinking 76ers in 5. I would even say maybe 4, but I'm going to go 5 just because I do agree with you. Like, Westbrook, Beal playing insane, and credit to Westbrook and Beal, credit to the Wizards. That trade with John Wall ended up being a great thing, and Westbrook's really thriving there. And they're a better team than the Raptors this year. So
yeah,
can't say
and
much.
also like on that same note, credit to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and the Sixers, because it's like that's hard for us to say as Eastern Conference fans who like we've had our rivalries in the playoffs with the Sixers, Raptors fans, but they've really, especially after all the criticism they've received over the past couple of years, like Joel Embiid is like he showed up and he's proved to everybody that he's a franchise player, and there's no more arguing about it. And as much as I understand why people don't like his attitude and his personality and all that kind of thing, but it's sort of, I'm the airplane thing. But that being said, it is kind of refreshing to see like a big man that is that plays like Joel Embiid. Like he's kind of just like he's a tough presence in the pace. He does have like floor spacing abilities and he can shoot off the dribble.
No, I know what you mean.
And all of that sort of thing. But yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? It's nice to see a team led by a guy like that be honestly probably the favorites outside of the Nets to come out of the conference. It's refreshing to see in a league that's so dominated by guards most of the time.
Yeah, refreshing is the absolute perfect word to describe that. 100%. Okay, moving on. We got 2 versus 7, which is the Nets versus the Celtics. And I have the Celtics in 4. I just think with the...
You mean
No, Celtics in 4. I think with the strength that the Celtics have, I think their coaching, I'm obviously joking. I think the Nets in 5, but probably 4. I just think that 5. I think the Celtics squeeze out one game because Tatum is going to just snap, and maybe Kyrie sits because he's protesting the Palestine-Israel thing or something something like that. That's just,
Yeah. I had Nets in 5 for that reason too. I think Jason Tatum's too good to not just go off one game, at least one game in the playoffs, and steal one game for the Celtics. But that Jaylen Brown injury it's really disappointing because the Celtics are such an exciting team to watch, and Jaylen Brown going down really just like kind of ruined their chances. And
and he was having such a great season too.
Yeah, he was sad. Like I don't know exactly what the odds are per se, but he has to be probably one of the favorites to win Most Improved Player. He was having an incredible year.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, but him going down, it's going to be tough for the Celtics to pull this one out. And this honestly benefits the Nets a lot because I know, like, I'm sure all of you know, a lot has been made about Durant, Harden, and Kyrie not having a lot of time to play together. I think they've only played together in I think it's like 10 games this season. They've all been on the court together. But I think against an injured Celtics team that throughout the whole year, they've kind of struggled to find their groove. I think they finished the season at around 500, which is honestly a very big disappointment for what their expectations were going into this year. I think the Nets are just going to have the firepower up front that despite their current lack of chemistry, they're going to be able to get past the Celtics pretty easily. And this series is going to honestly probably give them a bit of a foundation for series later on in the playoffs that their three stars have now played together in a playoff series that they got lucky that it's easy to win. Because if the 100%. If the Celtics had Jaylen Brown and if they figured their stuff out, they could beat a team that was having chemistry issues. But I don't think that's the case with the Celtics this year, and I think the Nets are going to win in 5.
Yeah, that was very eloquent, and I couldn't agree more with literally everything that you said there. I know that sounded sarcastic, but it wasn't meant to be. I truly do agree with what you're saying. Okay, so 3 versus 6. We got the Bucks versus the Heat. This is an exciting matchup. Last year, the
little Heat conference finals rematch.
Exactly, bro. And last year, as we all know, the Heat kicked the Bucks out. So I think the Bucks will be coming back for vengeance. With the addition of Drew Holiday, and I'm a huge Drew Holiday stan. I know you like Drew Holiday too, Kale. And our whole friend group does. Drew Holiday's a great player. And I think back with vengeance. Giannis last season in that conference finals wasn't feeling great. I think he had some kind of leg injury or something he was playing through. So he wasn't feeling that great. And yeah, I have the Bucks in 7. I think this is going to be a fantastic, fantastic series. And I can't wait. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree. This is not with the pick necessarily, but I agree that it's going to be a close series. These two teams, they're very familiar with each other, as we mentioned before, meeting in the conference finals last year. But I think my pick here is honestly the Heat in 7. And you mentioned the additions of Drew Holiday, and they got a lot better defensively, adding guys like PJ Tucker midway through this season. And that's done a lot to sort of bolster Giannis's supporting cast. And I think that the Bucks are undoubtedly much better this year. That being said, the question that I'm asking myself going into the playoffs is who do I trust more in a playoff series? Do I trust Giannis and Budenholzer, or do I trust Jimmy Butler and Spoelstra? And it's not even the Bucks players that sort of present an issue for me personally. I don't like Budenholzer as a playoff coach. He's been shown over the past couple years that he's unable to adapt his game plan in the playoffs. He doesn't play his starters enough. He struggles to make rotations, call timeouts at the right time. He just doesn't strike me as a guy that based on his history, has been able to manage a team in the trials and tribulations of a playoff series. Whereas you look at the other side, you have Jimmy Butler. He's a guy, he has the talent to carry a team, but he's also a leader of men in the locker room. Guys rally behind him. And then you have Eric Spoelstra, who's been with that team for his entire coaching career in the NBA. And he's established. He knows how to just run that system, and it's just his thing. But Budenholzer, on the other hand, he doesn't really know when to play his key players, it seems like. And that's something that I think makes a huge difference in the playoffs, is being able to adapt. Yeah. And especially when you have a guy like Giannis, that the recent playoff history of the Bucks shows that teams that are well coached can game plan Giannis out of the game. And I think that Budenholzer has shown throughout his tenure with the Bucks that he struggles to adapt to that when it matters. And that's why I would take the Heat in 7 games, but I think it will be a close series.
Yeah, man, you make some good points. I mean, as a Raptors fans, we all know like Bucks are up 2 in the series, and we're like, you know what, screw it, Kawhi or Marcus we just game plan him out and we win 4 games in a row.
You game plan Giannis out, and in that series against the Raptors, like that's not Giannis's fault that happened. That's Giannis's game. That's his skill set. That's Budenholzer's fault for not game planning around that, because it's not like that team that the Raptors beat didn't have, that Bucks team had the talent to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
They had guys like Chris Middleton on the team, who is probably one of the best secondary scoring options that you can get.
Yeah.
Like they had guys like Bledsoe, who granted he didn't play well in that series, but he's still a very capable starting point guard. Like they would have been able to run their offense just through different facets instead of just doing the exact same thing with Giannis. And I think that's something that the Bucks have come to rely a little bit too much on. And I think that's the reason that although their supporting cast it's undeniably improved, that doesn't matter if you don't use it properly.
Yeah. And I know what you're saying. And I think the reason that I picked the Bucks is the same reason that I think me and you will have the same opinion as me when we talk about teams like, the Lakers versus the Suns. And the reason that I'm picking the Bucks is because that big 3 of Giannis, Drew, and Middleton, I just think that those 3 as a trio are better than what the Heat has to offer. And although the Heat have a very good team, I just think that once again in the playoffs, we haven't mentioned this actually, but my opinion is once again in the playoffs, star power usually wins out. And I think that, I mean, it's going to be a great series either way.
Yeah, the point about star power winning out, it transitions well into our next matchup, which is the Hawks versus the Knicks. And this is an interesting matchup, just one, because it's 2 teams that in the past couple of years haven't been very successful. So they're happy to just be in the playoffs. And it's also interesting because these 2 teams play completely different styles of basketball. The Hawks are kind of like a more fast-paced scoring team, whereas the Knicks, they're tough, they're gritty defensively. They're gonna try to wear and grind you down. So it's gonna be interesting to see how those 2 styles of play kind of match up against each other. This is a tough one to pick because the Knicks have shown that like they're a very cohesive team this year. That this iteration of the team plays very, very well together. But the Hawks have been on an absolute tear lately. And going back to the point that you just made about the Bucks, I think that this is a case where the star power is going to get the edge. And in my opinion, the Hawks have that star power. They have the better upfront talent with guys like obviously Trae Young, but they also have John Collins, Capella, where as with the Knicks, you're kind of just looking at how much can Julius Randle create. Mm-hmm. And this year, that's obviously been a lot. He's playing at an all NBA level this season. But I think that this series is going to be very close. I think it's going to go 7 games. But overall, I think that the Hawks have the top end talent to get this done in 7.
Yeah, man. And I agree with you there. I also put the Hawks in 7. And I think this we're not Knicks haters at all. That's not what it is. Like I'm so in on the Knicks. I love that the run that they've been going on. I love what they're doing. I'm so happy for Knicks fans. But at the beginning of the season, even before the season, I was talking to Jake, actually, one of the guys who does the football podcast. I'm sure everyone knows Jake very well. Tall guy, good looking tall guy. But yeah, so I was talking to Jake and me and him were having a discussion about Trae Young and the Hawks and whatever. And I was saying it is a disappointment if they don't make the playoffs. And they have made the playoffs and they have lived up to my expectations. And we spoke about this, I think, on an earlier podcast at the beginning of the year, how the Hawks have the talent undoubtedly. And all they need to do is just figure it out and figure their pegging order in their team. Like, who is their number 1, number 2, number 3, and understand and build that team chemistry. And it is so clear that they have been able to accomplish that, at the back end of this season. And have they accomplished it enough to beat the Knicks in the first round? I think me and Kale both think so. It's going to be a great series, and we both think they're going to win in 7. But I think that's my take on the Hawks. Like, once again, what you said, they have the talent. It's just, they've proved the cohesion at the end of this season as well. And I personally think they can carry it and beat the Knicks in the first round.
Yeah. One interesting factor that I think plays into this series a lot more than it does into other series is going to be officiating, and just how games being called in the playoffs changes versus the regular season. I saw an interesting stat the other day that Trae Young creates the second most points per drive in the league. Wow. In that the amount of drives that he takes, their conversion into points, whether that be through assists, like just normal field goals or free throws. And the thing with Trae Young is he shoots a lot of free throws.
He does.
And when he's going up against a team in the first round in the Knicks that like they play a very like tough, gritty defensive style game, like a lot of like Thibodeau coach teams tend to play.
Yeah.
I think that the degree to which Trae Young is allowed to sort of create his offense from the free throw line through driving, getting calls in that sort of fashion. And if the officials are going to allow him to do that in the playoffs, is going to be a big deciding factor in the series. And that could potentially even swing it the Knicks' way if calls aren't going Trae Young's way, because the style of game that the Knicks play, if Trae Young isn't getting calls, that's going to grind him down a lot, not being able to create his offense and play the game that he's come to rely on. So I think that that's just one interesting factor that could play into this series a lot more than it will for others.
Yeah, man. I didn't even consider that, but that's definitely an interesting point to bring up. And another just interesting thing is, for me, Trae Young this season has had a fantastic season, and he didn't even make the AllStar game. And last year he was an AllStar starter. So it's just weird how, he had a better scoring season last year, but it is weird how storylines and the perception of players in the NBA by fans and by the media influence those decisions. And I understand there are reasons other than that, but the Hawks were significantly better as a team this year too. It's just an interesting thing.
Well, the last thing I'll say about that, the AllStar game is just a little weird like that, right? It's it is. And for this year, there's been a lot more talent depth in the Eastern Conference 100%. Than there has in other seasons. So, like, this is a year where I understand, like, you got to make decisions of some guys over others, and I don't know, doesn't really matter that much in my opinion.
No, I know.
But just anyways, we'll move on to the Western Conference now.
Sure.
So, just to preface, at time of recording this, the second play-in game in the Western Conference hasn't happened, and that game is the Grizzlies versus the Warriors. So we don't know who is actually going to be playing the Jazz in the first round, but Marco and I talked before the recording, and we think that in an hour when this game is played, we think that the Warriors are going to win. So for the sake of our recording, we're going to be assuming that the 1 versus 8 matchup is the Jazz versus the Warriors. Now, for this one, the Jazz have been on an absolute tear throughout this entire season. They just look incredible. There's not really a lot of analysis to even go into this series. The Warriors, since their dynasty kind of fell apart, they've been a little underwhelming, but I don't see a Steph Curry team in the playoffs getting swept. But I think the Jazz are going to win this pretty easily. I'm going to pick the Jazz in 5 for this series.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And for anyone who wants to hear about the Jazz, listen to our Jazz episode. It's a good episode. We talk about if they're legit playoff contenders, what the Jazz bring to the table. And I agree with Kale. There isn't much to talk about the Jazz. They deserve the 1 spot, and they're a fantastic team. And yeah, if the Warriors play them, I agree, will be 5. If it's the Grizzlies, if somehow the Grizzlies beat the Warriors, I think it's a sweep for the Jazz. 2 and 7. We got the Lakers versus the Suns. And if you told me that the Lakers and the Suns were playing at 2 and 7 and said that the Lakers would be 7 and the Suns would be 2, I'd be like, what do you mean? Like, it's such a weird scenario, but here we have it. And I got the Lakers in 7. I think this is going to be an amazing series. I think the Suns have built an incredible team, and it's a shame that they're playing the defending champions in the first round. I feel bad for them. But I would love the Suns to knock off the Lakers. Nothing against the Lakers. It's fun rooting for the underdog, and I love what the Suns are doing. And I like Chris Paul. I like Booker. I love their team. I like Ayton. But yeah, I got Lakers in 7.
Yeah, I agree. I had the same pick, Lakers in 7. And like you said, it would be cool to see the Suns succeed, because like you kind of root for the Suns a little bit, just because like for the past couple seasons, there's been like the questions asked of like, is Devin Booker good enough? And now he's shown he is. So that's kind of cool to see a team that's been built around him succeed.
Yeah.
And the addition of Chris Paul just put them completely over the edge, and they're an excellent team. They're one of the best teams in the Western Conference. But in a 7-game series against LeBron and Anthony Davis and the rest of that Lakers team, that you get them in the playoffs and they just have championship DNA. Like, there would just be a feeling in that Lakers locker room of just confidence. And I think in a 7-game series that's a very important thing. The Suns are undoubtedly like potentially of equal talent. They're a much deeper team than the Lakers are. Mm-hmm. But I just can't see a LeBron team with a supporting guy like Anthony Davis losing to the Suns. I just think that,
man, I agree.
Despite how good the Suns have been this year, they've been incredible, and they absolutely deserve to be where they are. The Lakers are going to beat them in 7 just on star power and on championship experience.
Yeah, we're just going with history here at this point. History repeats itself, and NBA history and playoff history in the NBA has shown us time and time again that the team with the stars wins.
And like this, honestly, like the Lakers shouldn't even. It's an anomaly with this season that the Lakers are the 7th seed, with LeBron missing as much time as he did,
and
Anthony Davis was out for so long. Like, you can't expect a team where like those two guys are out. Like, that's like half of the fucking salary on your team.
The Lakers were the best defensive team in the league this year, even with those injuries. So it's not like, I mean, it's going to be a great series, but yeah, I agree.
But yeah, like if your team is led by like I don't want this to sound condescending because I like Dennis Schroeder, but if your team is led by Dennis Schroeder for like half of the season, it's like you're probably not going to be like a 2 or 3 seed. You know what I mean?
I agree, man. I agree. We're not hating on Dennis Schroeder here. We like Dennis Schroeder, but we like Dennis Schroeder.
This is a Dennis Schroeder fan club here.
Yeah. Dude, just total off topic. I won my fantasy league in my other league, and prize is crazy. So many injuries, and it was just nuts. But I had a good team. Look, Westbrook carried me, bro. Westbrook carried me to the victory.
Westbrook was like the best player in fantasy this year.
He was, as always. He always gets slept on and is so good. But the winner gets a jersey, and I'm trying to decide. So I'll open it up. Hopefully, if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment what jersey I should get. I genuinely will take into account what jersey.
Pick Marco's jersey.
Yeah, you can pick my jersey. Do you have any suggestions for me, Kale?
No, I don't, but I'm gonna make a burner account and make you buy like a Wolves Ricky Rubio jersey or something.
Wow. Oh man, I'd be kind of cheesed at that. I mean, no hate to Ricky Rubio, but I was thinking a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander jersey. That'd be kind of
be cool. That'd be cool.
Hamilton, man. I played against him in high school. Broke his ankle a couple times. So
maybe if the Suns beat the Lakers and win a championship, you can get a DeAndre Ayton jersey, a Goldblatt family favorite.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Okay, next, but please comment down below, please. Okay, we got 3 versus 6. The Nuggets versus the Trailblazers. Take it away.
So I think that this is going to be probably not a popular pick, but I think the Blazers are going to win this in 7. So earlier this year, Portland, they looked like they were going to be a first-round opponent that you would want to see, but that is just no longer the case. The Blazers got hot, probably as expected on any Damian Lillard team. They're just going to come through when it matters. They finished with a 10-5 record and the second best rating over the final 15 games. They managed to get out of the play-in, and that was just huge for them. They were one of the worst defenses in the league for like a vast majority of the year. But during that 15-game stretch, there was a big uptick in their defense. And given the offensive firepower that we know that the Trailblazers have with Damian Lillard at the helm, CJ McCollum as a supporting kind of guy, and then adding someone like our boy Norman Powell. He's incredible secondary scorer. That offense is something that you do not want to see in the first round of the playoffs. And with them playing a lot better defense recently, that's going to be crucial against the Nuggets. And with the Nuggets losing Jamal Murray, they've lost Will Barton now for a long time. The Nuggets are missing like a lot of pieces that they're going to need on offense. I still think that the Nuggets are a very good and well-built team, and they're good enough for this is going to be a very long and entertaining series. But again, it's a case of playoff experience here again. And I'm not saying the Nuggets don't have that, but it seems every time the Damian Lillard Trailblazers are in this situation, it's happened against Denver before, that they have teams' numbers in this situation. And this is going to go to 7, but in game 7, I'm going to take the Portland Trailblazers here.
Yeah, man, you're kind of, I wrote down Nuggets in 7. I'm not going to change my opinion just because of what you said, but you make a good pitch, Kale. You can
but the thing is, it's like you really think about it, like right, like
it's not
an
easy choice.
It's not an easy choice, but envision it like series is tied. You sit down on your couch and you have to pick one of those teams to win the game.
And it's yoke time, baby. It's yoke time.
It's not time. It's not yoke time. Like it's Dame time.
It's egg time, baby. You go crack a yolk right on Dame.
That's not a like very like analytical analysis of it, but
you're right.
But the clutch gene is a thing, and Damian Lillard has it, and he's going to beat the Nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, I got Nuggets in 7. I think Jokic is the MVP. Him and Curry, it's between those two in my opinion, but I mean, and everyone else's. But I got Nuggets in 7. And also to your point that you think that the Nuggets are the favorites. I don't know what it is on the betting world, but I was reading this article like NBA expert analysts predict the playoffs and whatever, and there was 18 of them, and it was 9-9. So 9 of them picked the Nuggets, and nine of them picked the Blazers. And I think if the Nuggets had Jamal Murray, you would be on the Nuggets side as well.
I don't think I would be.
Okay, well,
to be honest.
Oh wow. Okay, so if they had Jamal Murray, to me, this is like a 6-game series, a 6 or 7-game series. But Jamal, I think Jamal Murray is different, bro. He's different.
Bro, like playoff Jamal Murray existed for one season in like an Orlando bubble. Like
he always exists until he doesn't. That's how I look at it. That's just who he is in the playoffs, and until he doesn't perform in the playoffs. I think it's going to be an amazing series. It's a series that I will be tuning in for, or I'll be tuning in for Game 7 because I really, really think there will be a Game 7.
I agree.
Okay, you want to move on to your favorite team? If you guys don't know, Kale is a massive Clippers fan.
Fuck off! I hate the Clippers. Even though I despise the Clippers, and I want the Mavericks to sweep them because I hate them as an organization.
Some Luka magic?
They trigger me. Yeah, I want the Luka Magic to beat them in 4. I think that this is another case where the combination of Kawhi and Paul George and adding like an experienced playoff guy like Serge Ibaka, I think the Clippers are going to handle the Mavericks probably, honestly, a little bit easier than they did last year.
Yeah,
I'm going to take the Clippers in 6, which again, same result as last playoffs, but
last one was close though.
Well, last one was close. And I think like the Mavericks have improved as well, just by essence of Luka just having another year of experience under his belt leading that team. But the same can be said for the Clippers. And I think honestly, what held the Clippers back for most of last season was their lack of chemistry.
Agreed.
Paul George and Kawhi hardly played it all together last year because they were just resting all the time.
Yeah.
that didn't happen nearly as much this year. They have another year in the locker room, another year of playing like a regular season together where frankly they both stopped resting enough, because I think that the organization recognized that was a problem in the postseason.
Yeah.
And I don't, from what I've seen of the Clippers this year, I don't think that they have the same chemistry issues as they did last year. In fact, I think they look much, much better than they did last year.
I would agree with you, man. I got the Clippers in 5. I think the Mavericks are a good team, and they've been on an amazing, they had a slow start, but they've been on a great stretch at the end. But once again, playoffs, talent wins out. I think playoff P is going to come. He's going to be hitting the net instead of the backboard. Pandemic P. And yeah, man, Pandemic P is just different. But no, I genuinely think I agree with everything that you said. The Clippers do have the chemistry. Now, I think with the addition of our boy Serge Ibaka, they have a fantastic roster. Man, Kawhi just defending Luka, you can't ask for a better matchup. I mean, if you were to put anyone on Luka to stop Luka, it would probably be Kawhi, right? Yeah, I think it'll be a fun series, but I got Clippers in 5.
I think it would be OG Anunoby that you would put on him, but
Kawhi's
a close second.
I don't know. I forgot about that. Yeah, or like Patrick Beverley, if you could just take Patrick Beverley off from a. No, I'm joking about that.
Yeah, maybe if Luka like played in like Europe still and he was like 15, then Pat
him. Yeah. Patrick Beverley slander is always appreciated on the podcast.
Pat Bev slander is tolerated.
It's 100% tolerated. Patrick, I want to end the podcast with more Pat Bev slander. Pat Bev is the most overrated defender in the entire NBA.
Yeah.
hate Beverley.
There doesn't even need to be a discussion about it. He's so overrated. Like he's actually just a trash defender. Like he's just like foul machine that just runs around like flailing his arms. He sucks.
Yeah, he sucks. I completely agree. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up this podcast. That was really fun. Guys, if you're still listening, which I hope you are, if you're on YouTube, comment down below what you think. Comment down below what jersey I should get. But comment down below if we, said any hot takes, what you think. And hopefully we didn't piss off any Pat Bev lovers.
Yeah.
If there are any, I don't know.
I don't think there are. But anyways, guys, thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yep. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.